This is music, and this is a bit of a different video. Okay, so as I said, this is going to be a bit of a different video. First of all, I just want to start out by saying thanks and congratulations to Brendan Van Doom. So I just want to say thanks for the shout out in his latest video as of at least me shooting this one here. And I also want to say congratulations to him because of a family expansion about to happen. So that's great. Go and check out his channel. I'm sure everybody here who subscribed to me also knows his channel, but on the off chance that you don't, go and check it out. He has lots of great videos on collecting physical music media, CDs, vinyls, and so on and so forth. Great stuff. I've learned a lot about, especially a lot of Australian bands from watching his videos. So again, thanks to Brendan Van Doom for the shout out and congratulations, and go and check out his channel if you don't already know it. Okay, so if you are around my age, maybe if you're a bit older, maybe if you're a bit younger, and you were in a band, so that's like in the 80s, in the 90s, you probably did something like this, produced something like this, a demo tape. Yeah. I was in a thrash metal band in the early to mid 90s. They started out as a Metallica cover band, and they brought me in because they wanted a guitarist who could actually play the bridge to Seek and Destroy. And we started writing our own songs. Actually, before I joined, the bass player had already composed their first complete song, which is a very cool sort of certainly a thrash metal song, but it has more of sort of the triplet structure to the picking. Great song. I think I joined because I wanted to play that song and to play Metallica, and because I could actually play the bridge for Seek and Destroy. But so I joined the band. We started writing our own music. We brought in a vocalist because the other vocalist left. So we brought in a vocalist with some range, and he's actually he's in a band now, and he's actually released a lot of full-length albums with that band. So that's great. And we brought in another guitar player who was a great lead guitarist and also creative and composed songs, right? So we had a thrash metal band, groove thrash metal band. We made our own music in the 90s, and that means, of course, we also made a bunch of demo tapes. And we actually ended up on this compilation here, Fuck You, We're From Denmark, Volume 4. I'm not going to say which band we are, so I'm going to leave that as a mystery in case you want to find out. But we're on here. Unfortunately, this is known as The Bad One. They made 4 of these things, and I think maybe they gave up. It was a Danish label called Progress Records. Eventually, they changed to Die Hard Records. But we made the most professional sounding demo we made. We ended up having one song from that demo on here. A song that I wrote the majority of the music for, and I co-wrote the lyrics with the vocalist, and then the other guitarist composed the bridge. So, right? And the drummer wrote the drums, and the bass player added some details. So at the end of the day, we co-wrote it all together, which is great. But we did a lot of demos. The most professional sounding one, we have a song on here. Unfortunately, the bad one. I think our song is decent. I don't think it's our fault. It's called The Bad One. However, so I was in a thrash metal band in the 90s. I was part of the underground metal scene in the 90s. I was not a central part of it because I kind of liked sort of just focusing on writing and playing music. So I didn't socialize that much with the rest of the scene, but I was part of it, and I did go to gigs. And one thing that was very common back in the day was a lot of the underground bands would make demo tapes, right? And they would bring demo tapes and sell them at these local shows. Of course, the bands who played, they would have demo tapes and merch they would sell, but other bands also, because it was like a very tightly knit underground scene, they also were allowed to set up tables and sell their demos. So of course, being part of the scene, I amassed quite a collection of demo tapes. Unfortunately, these are the two only surviving demo tapes from that collection. I actually thought I had lost these two as well, but I've managed to find them in our basement a couple of weeks ago. So very happy to still have them. Now this is Morpheus. They were a death doom band, or doom death band, and eventually, it's just a black tape. Eventually, they actually became a melodeath band and changed their name when all the original members were out. They changed their name to Mindmare. So this is a very professional, top tier demo tape from back in the day, right? Got some lyrics. Have a band photo, and the tree in the background was like a legendary tree in the in a park. A lot of metal bands, even like bands from abroad, when they played gigs, they went there and did band shots in front of that. So Morpheus, Death Doom, or Doom Death, and the other one is Trend. This, by the way, the Morpheus one is Where No Dreams Reach, so this one has a title. This one is just called Trend. They were like a groove metal band, thrash elements to them as well, a bit of crossover as well, and some funk, right? So they were like a 90s metal band. They were very popular. This demo has a label on it, which used to be white, but now it's yellowing. I mean, both of these are. Attention, copying will breed a virus, so don't copy this. The J card here is a bit more modest, right? Nothing on the back. Now, so I had quite a collection of demo tapes. These are the two only surviving members. And demo tapes from that time are a bit difficult to get a hold on, of course, obviously, right? I mean, they were underground, not that many were made, and they are perishable. A lot of people just forgot them. I know some people who, for example, the vocalist I mentioned from the thrash band I was in, he actually still has all his demo tapes, and also some of our demo tapes, fortunately. Now, if there's a bit of a shame, right, that these are hard to get a hold on. Now, if you are interested in checking out what the Danish underground metal scene was like and what some of the demos sounded like, there is actually a website, and that's what I'm going to show you in this slightly different video, that has archived a lot of these demos. Interestingly enough, not these two, they're not on it, and our demos are not on it either, but there are a lot of demos from that time, especially the 90s. There was a cool extreme metal, thrash, death thrash, black metal underground scene going on in Denmark back in the 90s. The site is called the Danish Demo Dungeon, and they have, you know, digitized demos from bands like Artillery and Concra, and I'm going to show you that. and so they're fairly well known, but also less known bands and even completely obscure bands, and also some demos by bands that had members who would later join more well-known bands. There's a demo that features one of the guitarists from Invocator, for example. So, and by the way, if you can hear something that sounds like a coffee machine, it's just my cat purring. He's chilling in my lap right now and he likes that, so he purrs, of course. So, but what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna switch to screen share, and I'm gonna show you what the Danish Demo Dungeon looks like. Before I do that, however, I still want to say thanks to Brendan Van Doom, and I want to say congratulations. But through the magic of editing, we're gonna switch right now. Okay, so let's have a look at this Danish Demo Dungeon. You've got the URL right up here, danishdemoDungeon.dk, and Danish metal demos for the masses. So this is sort of the repository, or I guess archive of Danish demo releases by Danish metal bands. Most of these are from the 90s. Some of them are even back from the 80s, and some of them are, you know, from the 2000s. And so let's have a look at it. You got some welcome text here. You got a disclaimer about the sound quality. Here you have like an overview of how many things are. 97 bands right now, 162 demos. They got some magazines as well. Some, you know, some thank yous and credits. So how does this work? Well, you got out here, this is where you have access points to all the bands and so on and so forth. And I should say that everything that's on here has been approved by at least one member of these bands, yeah? So you have like a list of bands down here. If you're interested, I just click this one here. There's some magazines as well, heavy metal magazines. Some of them, like this one here, is in Danish, right? And so the really underground is it zines or zines? I don't know. Metallic Beast is another example, right? So some really old school stuff. I haven't really looked into this, so some of it, as I said, is in Danish. Maybe all of it is in Danish, but there might be some English language stuff too. So that's the magazines, but let us actually go to the demos. I'm just going back here. There you go. So you have a list of bands out here, right? And it goes all the way from A all the way down to Z or Z, yeah. And as you can see, if you just take a look at just the A's here, right? You got some unknown bands, some bands that sort of remained underground, but you also have artillery demos, right? I think Autumn Leaves, as far as I remember, they also did some full lengths. But yeah, so you got artillery demos. If you click here, you can see you go to the band, and so here you got no sound files yet. But if you go down here to the Shell Shock demo from 1984, you actually have the sound files, right? So you can just click it and you'll be able to play it. I'm not going to play it here, but you'll be able to play it, right? And you can also download the songs if you wish. But so you can hear some old artillery demos here. I think that's actually pretty cool, right? Because they are pretty. Look at how young they look here, right? So you can do that, and as you can see, you have, as I said, artillery, some more well-known bands. You also have some less internationally well-known bands. I think Agonize, and I don't know how many people actually know these guys. But you have this one demo here, Fall from 91, promo demo 93. This one is really good. So let's just explore this a bit more. So let's see, you got Blazing Eternity. They ended up being fairly well known, right? So you got some demos here. Der hviler en nat under sorte vinterbøger, 98, right? Over sorte heder, 96. So you got some Blazing Eternity demos here. You have this one here, Cyanotic. They did end up actually making one album. I don't know how many of you guys know these guys. They were, as far as I remember, they were kind of known as the nice guys of death metal. And this demo here, The Chasm Within, or is it Chasm? The Chasm Within, yeah, from 92. This one is really interesting. It's from 92, but this is before melodic death metal. But this song here, Eclipsed Existence, I think it is. This is melodic death metal before melodic death metal. It doesn't sound like, sort of the typical melodeath of the late 90s and 2000s, but it's really, really melodic. They really make use of melody here, and they've got growled vocals on top of that. So I think personally, The Chasm Within is a great demo release as well. You got Promo 95. So what else do we have? Yeah, Dark Region, this one. Jeppe, this guy here, is a great guitarist. He actually replaced me in the thrash metal band after I left, and I actually ended up playing in a death metal band with him for a very short time. Heine, the vocalist, I went to high school with him. And he's actually a drummer. He ended up playing the drums in a sort of a black metal band called Ceremony, and then they became a progressive band. But he does the vocals here. So, and this is like death thrash, Memento Mori. Very good, I think. Death thrash as well, like underground death thrash. So, Dark Region. We have Detest here. They ended up actually releasing a couple of full-length albums and gaining some international, not fame, but you know what I mean, right? People knew about them. So you got Deathbreed here. You have Dorval, which is their full-length, right, album. And of course, you don't have the files here because, support the band and go and buy it. You can still do that, right? But you have the demo, Death Breed, right? These ones here, Eagles Preach, thrash metal band from Odense. By the way, the Dark Region I showed you were of course also from Odense. That's my birth town. Rule number 1 from 90. What makes these interesting, apart from it being pretty cool, like thrash metal, maybe with traditional heavy metal elements, is that this guy here, Perle, ended up playing the guitars on 2 Invocator albums, and great guitarist. His solos are very, very melodic. So he was on Weave the Apocalypse and Dying to Live, playing some great lead guitars there. So if you want to hear what Eagles Preached sounded like, the band he was in, or one of the bands he was in before joining Invocator, there you go, you can check that out. We have, so that's Eagles Preach, Everticum. They did, I have an EP of theirs, this one down here at In Infinitum. So this one might be their best known release, but they have these demos up here, right? In Eternal Sleep and Human, does it say Nature? Yeah, because it looked like an M, right? Human Mature, but that would be weird. So there you go. You can check all of these out, because all of these are really, really interesting, right? Again, this is like underground metal. A lot of this is like extreme metal, but underground metal from the 90s, the Danish underground scene from the 90s, early 2000s, and also some of them are late 80s, and of course Artillery all the way back to basically the mid and early 80s, right? You got some ill-disposed demos as well, right? They are fairly well known, but here you can go back and see. Okay, so unfortunately no sound files here, but you can see what the demos looked like and what the track lists were. You got some Concra. They're also fairly well known, and this one here, Malgrowth, was the rage back in the day. All the rage circulated a lot. You have Geronimo up here. They ended up, this is interesting too, they did one EP called Peace to the Chief, which was like rap metal, and you got the advanced tape here, has 2 songs from it, or certainly this one, Noise in the Hood. I'm actually not sure about My Beloved Angel, but Noise in the Hood was from that album. And these are interesting because they started out like a hardcore punk crossover, and then this one here, Journey to Oblivion, is doom metal, and then they go, with rap metal in the mid 90s, and eventually their vocalist ended up being like a rapper, right? Just doing hip hop music. So that's interesting too. I've seen these guys live a couple of times. So that's Geronimo. You have, let's see, I'm gonna pick one more. I'm gonna go with Vicious Aroma. They were a sort of a parody comedy band. This is Smellowaits from 1990. So you have Smellbound. You don't have the titles here, but so that's their demo. They were actually very proficient musicians, and there was a sort of a sub part of the Danish underground scene that was kind of like humor metal, not as much as in the UK, but we did have some. So we had Vicious Aroma, and I don't know if they are on here. They're not, but their competitors were a band called Sliced Pimples, so they did a lot of fun stuff. I'm actually just gonna highlight a last band here, but of course, I think you should check out all of this stuff. I mean, it's all good. Rigid Domain, because this guy here, Klaus, he produced one of our demos, and he was also in Sliced Pimples. Rigid Domain so they're from Odense too. They're from my hometown, and they were a thrash metal band, and they were kind of different from the rest of the scene because, as you can see in their later lineup, their vocalist here was a woman. So one of the sort of first local bands in that town to have metal bands to have a female vocalist, and she kicks ass. Up here is a bit older, right? This guy even looks like, I shouldn't be mean, but they look like, some of these guys looks like they're from Toto, but this is a picture from the 80s, right? So that's a Rigid Domain. Great thrash speed metal band. I think their early stuff is more traditional metal band, traditional heavy metal. So Danish Demo Dungeon, if you want to check out what the underground metal scene was like in the late 80s, and as I said, in some cases even mid to late 80s, or the 90s and also the early noughties, you want to go and check out the Danish Demo Dungeon. And also, if you want to check out some underground magazines, you can do that. As I said, a lot of them are probably in Danish. You can also, if you are a Danish band and you had some demo tapes out there, you can donate a tape and they will put it up here probably for you. So Danish Demo Dungeon, I hope you found this interesting and useful. Thanks for watching.